Hello, everyone! We literally just started KVK yesterday. We're playing the heroic anthem story, and this time everything started a bit differently than usual. I know other kingdoms have already dealt with this, but for me it was something completely new. I'm talking about the fact that pre-KVK no longer happens on the home map, but directly on the KVK map itself. So, the date the game called the start date actually became the starting point for our pre-KVK. Before, we used to subtract 6 days from that date to figure out when we'd get onto the KVK map. That was a small intro, but the main topic of this video is Marauders, because now they give us crystals. Sounds amazing, but it's not quite as great as it seems at first glance. The main problem is that Marauders have become more expensive. Before, we spent 30 action points on one Marauder, now it costs 60 action points. To be fair, they increased the rewards too, and now it's basically the same as KVK barbarians in the starting zone 4. But the problem is that now we get fewer chests than before, because we kill fewer Marauders for the same amount of action points. In this video, we'll calculate everything and figure out whether it's still worth spending action points on Marauders, because at first glance it looks like we'll be getting fewer rewards, but at least we'll get crystals. Let's start from the beginning. To test everything, I spent 143,000 action points on Marauders and got 171 chests. My very first thought was, why so few? And yeah, that feeling was right. For comparison, let's take my own result from autumn 2025. Back then, I got 271 chests for 120,000 action points. Notice that I spent fewer action points, but got more chests. If we imagine that back then I had spent the same amount of action points as now, it should have been 322 chests, which is almost twice as much as what we actually have now. And that makes sense overall, because Marauders now cost twice as much. Okay, but maybe the rewards got better? Maybe the rewards from the chests now aren't the same as before. Let's check that. Open the 171 chests we got from the new Marauders and count everything. The result was 28 days of speed-ups, 5,150 gems, and 4 legendary materials. Now let's compare that to what we had before. Just a reminder, on the new Marauders I spent 143,000 action points, and back then I spent 120,000 action points. Obviously, the rewards are lower now than they were before. I won't torture you with all the calculations, I'll just say this. The rewards became 1.8 times worse compared to what we had before, assuming the same number of action points was spent. Sounds bad, but that's only the reward from the chests. The rewards from the Marauders themselves were increased, but you have to remember that we hit Marauders half as many times now because they cost twice as much. Unfortunately, neither back then nor now did I count the rewards from the Marauders separately, but I can estimate it. To do that, I hit another 100 Marauders and started going through YouTube and checking my even older calculations. And I'll say this, it did get a little better, but not by much. Here's what we get now from the new Marauders for 143,000 action points, and what we used to get from the old ones. The calculations are approximate, but they should be close to the truth. These are specifically the rewards from the Marauders themselves. And now let's add together the chest rewards and the Marauder rewards to see the overall picture. Well, it's not as bad as I first thought, but speed-ups really did go down. And in my opinion, there weren't that many of them to begin with. But now we do get crystals, and from Marauders, 143,000 action points gives us about 1.19 million crystals. But that's only if you've upgraded barbarian bounties in the Crystal Academy, otherwise you'll get fewer crystals. Whether it was worth it or not is something everyone has to decide for themselves, but personally, I'm disappointed that Lilith reduced the rewards in exchange for crystals. On the other hand, now there's a good alternative for people who don't have time to do barbarian chaining, but still need crystals. Although, to be honest, with the current Crystal Academy, it's become much easier to get the discount on healing, so I'm not really sure how necessary these crystals from Marauders are for most players. And finally, since we're already talking about barbarian chaining, let's compare that to the new Marauders. We don't always manage to kill 3 barbarians in one chain, so the calculation here is based on 2.5 barbarians, and as you can see, chaining is noticeably better than the new Marauders, especially when it comes to crystals. But chaining also takes a lot of time, and spending 143,000 action points through chaining is definitely not a quick task and not something you do in one day. Roughly speaking, if you do chains for 8 hours a day with 5 marches, it will take you 5 days. Meanwhile, with Marauders, everything is much faster and easier, especially if you use auto mode. Let's sum it up. If you have the time to do chains, then it's definitely more efficient. But if you don't have the time, then Marauders are a great option, and you really can't say you're losing some huge rewards except for crystals. Hope this video was helpful. Thanks for watching.